upset in my eye. Butterfly in the sky. Hi guys, what's up? It's me, Audra. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, I'm not sure how you got here, but certainly I'm glad you came. And if you are new here, well, you're in for a treat. All right, if you are into beauty, horror, and a little bit of commentary thrown in between, then I suggest you go ahead and subscribe. For the low price of $0. I will tell you little random facts about myself. Like today's fact, I don't like sandwiches. I don't like my food smashed together like that. It's gross. And here are my socials, which are probably in front of my face because I've zoomed the camera in really close today. So I hope that you hang out at them and remember that I do have a face. All right, it is Terror Tuesday. It's Terror Tuesday, which means it's time to talk about horror films, which is my favorite thing. And today we're going to talk about one of the most disturbing horror films I have seen in a really, really long time. Now, this one would be deemed more of a psychological horror, and it's called Incident in Ghostland. Warning, this movie is very upsetting and has a lot of triggers for violence, assault, violence against women. So if any of those things are very upsetting to you, I highly suggest that you do not watch it. Okay, now on to the video. This movie begins with Colleen, the mom, and her two daughters, Beth and Vera, and they are moving into Colleen's aunt's house, who has passed away, and they're moving into the house because really, like, they don't have a lot of money anyway, so it's time for them to like pick up and move. So here they go, they're on the road, and you know, they're doing their little thing, and you can tell that Beth and Vera kind of have like a sister relationship where they're competing against one another, and there's French in there somewhere. I don't know the hows or whys of it. Perhaps Colleen is French, no say. Anyway, what happens is as they're driving, there's like this truck that kind of comes up on them and they're rude about it, and I think it is Vera that gives them the finger, and you're like, Vera, that wasn't nice, but there was something about that truck that gives you the willies. All right, so you get the willies. All right, so they stop at a gas station, and they're in there and they're explaining to like the gas station attendant, and Beth ends up saying that you know, well, we're moving into this house, and she's like, oh, the old such and such house, and they're like, yeah, and she's like, all right, we'll have a good time, and they leave the gas station. All right, it's still getting creepy. All right, so then they get to the house and they open the door and they're getting all this stuff and they're moving their stuff in, and you know, Vera is very much like, you know what, Mom, you like Beth more than me anyway, so like whatever. And Mom's like, that is not true, just be nice to each other, whatevs. So there they are in the house, they're getting things ready, all this, and then you see it. There's people breaking into the house. Things are getting chaotic. Things are being thrown everywhere, tossed everywhere. Everything's being grabbed. Everything's going awry. There's beatings, there's hittings, there's punchings, and then flash. Beth is an adult. She is an accomplished horror writer. She has a whole thing about H.H. Holmes. Is it H.H. Holmes? I feel like I'm wrong there. Anyway, we're gonna go check. And I totally apologize. It totally was not H.H. Holmes. It's H.P. Lovecraft. What am I on? Nothing. This is how I am every day. Yeah, H.H. Holmes is one of the most prolific serial killers ever. He built a murder hotel, you know, kind of like American Horror Story, with staircases that go nowhere, and trapdoors. Anyway, it's not H.H. Holmes. I apologize for that. Okay. Anyhow, she is a very accomplished writer, and you know, Vera has a little cuckoo and going on because of the whole thing, you know. All right, so anyhow, now that Beth is an adult, she's accomplished, she has a husband, she has children, everything's wonderful, everything's great, but then she starts having nightmares. And finally, she ends up realizing she has to go home and she has to visit Vera, because Vera has not recovered well, and her mother said so. Vera has not recovered well from the whole attack that happened 16 years ago when they were girls. Mom defeated everything and everything's good, so Beth goes home to take care of Vera. And Vera keeps saying that there's people in the house and that they're not leaving, and she's like completely psychotic, and you can tell that one has made it out of this whole nightmare well and the other one hasn't. So as things keep progressing, weird, strange things start happening, and you begin to feel like maybe there are ghosts or something is going on in this house. Like something is attacking Vera, because Vera will just like be getting thrown all around the room and there's no one there. Vera is being tossed back and forth like a rag doll, and you don't know what's happening. You're like, oh my God, there's a ghost incident in a ghost land. See, however, this is when everything starts to kind of crack, right? Because Beth starts remembering the past. And as she starts to remember it, she starts to kind of wake up a little bit. And by wake up, I mean she's not an adult. She was never an adult. She doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have children. In fact, she hasn't even left that house. And this is where everything gets so frightening. Okay, listen. This is a scary movie. It's very scary. It's very heartbreaking. And I will tell you that if you want to watch this, huge trigger warning for abuse, if that's something that you're upset by. I actually am, and that is why I never really talk about this movie, but it's so remarkably good because of the way that it tells the story, and it tells the story of disassociation. Essentially what has happened, and you've now discovered it, is that during this kidnapping, let me just start here. When this happened and the people broke into the house, it's a giant, I guess he's mentally ill, but a giant mentally ill man. He is a giant, like tall giant. A giant mentally ill man, and mentally incapacitated, not ill. Like, yes, mentally challenged. There we go. I could not decide on whether or not I wanted to say mentally incapacitated or mentally challenged, and what came out was mentally ill. Okay, here we go. Another man who, I guess he would be, I don't know if we still use the term cross-dresser, because I wouldn't consider him trans. I don't know. Times have changed and I'm old. We'll say a man dressed in woman's clothes, acting like a woman, but he's not a woman. And it doesn't seem like at any point that he is a woman. But, and you don't find that out until later, and I'm telling you now, but it becomes important because they were kidnapped, and the whole thing, when everything goes black and like everybody has survived and everything's good, no. Vera has broken Beth out of her dissociative state where she went to another world, because this is something that a lot of writers do, and also people who have suffered any kind of trauma. A lot of people will disassociate. Also, Beau is dreaming because it's probably like 1 o'clock in the morning right now. Anyway. So what happened is you go back to the scene where everything's fighting, and her mom actually did not survive. She was stabbed multiple times, and instead of her being able to survive, she does everything she can to try to protect her daughters, but she is unable to fight off 2 grown men. So now Beth is back in the house and back underneath the horrifying circumstances that she's actually in, and horrifying they are, because once she gets woken up, she looks at Vera and she starts to cry, and she says, I hate you, Vera, because Vera made her like wake up to like what's actually happening. And she was really perfectly content in her adult world where she was a celebrated horror novelist, and H.P. Lovecraft, I don't know why he was there, and that really should have tipped most of us off. Anyways, he wasn't there at the very, very start of it, but her fascination with him, and the fact that she was just doing so well and like mostly so well adjusted, well, now that's not a real life. That's the life she made in her head. So anyway, at one point, Vera's like, just don't move, when they hear like a rattling, like the kidnappers are back, okay? And she's like, don't move and don't cry, right? And this is horrible. I'm so sorry I have to tell you this, but it's like the most It's horrible. So Beth gets dragged up by the big man. I'm gonna call him a man baby, not because he's mentally ill, but you'll find out. So he's this big man baby. And he sets her with all of these dolls. That's why. So he sets her with all of these dolls, and she's painted like a doll, and she's dressed like a doll, and all this kind of stuff. And she's sitting there as still as she can, not moving, trying not to cry or do anything to upset him. Because as she's watching, he starts grabbing the dolls and like grabs one and and then breaks it and throws it. And she starts to realize he thinks she's a doll. He thinks she's a doll. And finally, he grabs her and she is frightened. He is now holding her and kind of shaking her like a rag doll. And she is, my heart was in my chest because I was like, oh my God, if he tries to rip her apart, that's all I could think. She pees, he gets very upset about the pee and just drops her down, And so now you realize that all this time she's been suffering some horrific abuse at the hands of this man baby and his brother. Okay. I'm gonna take a breath because this is it gets worse. So then Beth sees this as an opportunity to escape, and she ends up grabbing like a typewriter type thing or something and smashes man baby and tries to fucking escape. She tries to get Vera and fucking run, all right? And they're running and they're like, we've made it out of this fucking nightmare, and they're running for their dear freaking lives. And you know what they see? They see police, and they're so excited, and you're like, oh my God, please get the police, please get the police, please get the police. And they don't, and like, what do you think they don't? You think the police are about to drive off, but the police don't drive off, and they're like, ah! And the police are like, oh my God, we found them, the girls who have been missing, okay? So they find these girls and they say something and they call on the radio, but before it can even get done, one of the cops is shot. Then the other one. And the brothers grab them back up and put them in the ice cream truck that they were driving at the beginning of the movie. And you're like, no, not again. So they're about to be taken back to the house. And you think right here, you're like, they're gonna get rescued right now. They do not. Beth goes back in her dissociative state. And in there, everything is perfect again. She's doing well. And guess who she runs into at her book opening? Her book launching. Is that what you call it? A book launch? Okay, at her book launch. H.P. Lovecraft. He's there. And she's so upset because he's gonna come and he's gonna talk to her about her book. He's like, yo, your book is dope. That's not how he talks, but that's how he talks for this story. He's like, yo, your book is dope. Don't change one word. Not one word. You hear me? One fucking word. And I'll never talk to you again. All right, so she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But she can hear it. And she tries to ignore it, and she tries to keep the facade going. And then her mom is there being like, how are you, baby? And she's like, I don't know, Mom. And she's like, you have to, do what's best for you. You can stay here. And she's like, we're sisters. And then she gets up out of her dissociative state and realizes it is time. She's not going to leave her sister alone. While they may not have always gotten along, she's going to do something to help her. So they begin another escape attempt. And this time they mean fucking business. And Beth is giving it her all, and they're fighting, and she's screaming, and she's doing everything that she can to survive. And she tries to get away from Big Man Baby, who, by the way, ridiculously strong. He hits her so hard that you feel it through the frickin' screen. And just when you think that it's all over for her, bam! The police come in, they shoot Big Man Baby, and they also shoot Brother. Evil brother with the wig. So scary. He acts like a woman the whole time, but it's like the most frightening thing ever. Like, he's a mother, but he's horrible. Just horrible. And in the end, they are saved. Both of them are saved. Beth gathered her courage and her strength to really be the sister that her sister needed, and to deal with the fact that her mother had passed away, and to also realize that it was much better to be on this plane with her sister, alive and well, than, or perhaps dead, than in the imaginary one where she had left her sister behind. As they are carried out on gurneys, the EMTs are talking to her and they're like, hey, you did it, you're a pretty strong kid. She's like, and she's really, really, really beat up, okay? And so is Vera. Vera has taken a lot of licks. And the EMT says, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? And she's like, Beth says, a writer. And that's the end of the movie. I actually just got chills. This is one of the most frightening movies I've ever seen, and it affects me so genuinely because I myself have had some very upsetting situations in my life where I have done that very thing. Not exactly like that, but where I just left the situation. Like physically I was there, but mentally I had gone somewhere else. Now, in the making of this movie, pretend you don't see the tears starting to well in my eyes. The actress who played Vera did actually end up suing the production because in some of the scenes and the violence and whatnot, she ended up breaking her cheekbone and it was pretty rough. This movie is one of the darkest, scariest films I have really seen in a very, very long time. I would only advise watching it if you, I don't know. But for me, I found it cathartic. Even going through all the things that I've gone through in my life, I found this film extraordinarily cathartic. One, because I too realized that it was so much more important to just be alive and here on this plane, at least trying, than just like floating off somewhere else and doing nothing. All right, that is it. That is the video. I am so sorry that this one was not super exciting and entertaining and fun, but you know what? Not all horror movies are super fun. Some of them are dark and chilling, but this one really always speaks to my heart. And honestly, every time it comes on, I can't not watch it. Like I have to watch it when it comes on. And there are also times where I just go put it on because it gives me strength. I know, it sounds weird. Anyways, that's that. I'm gonna go hide in a corner now. Thank you guys so much for watching this. I know it wasn't exciting, and maybe it was exciting, but very upsetting, and I'm so sorry for that. I'll put a warning at the front. Okay, I actually feel bad that I ended this video like that this was such a depressing, like dark story, so I'm gonna try to liven it up. You know what time it is. All right, so that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll tune in next week. Perhaps we'll do something a little bit more lighthearted, which definitely we will, because this one took a little bit of an emotional toll on me. And a huge thank you to my patrons. You guys, you're the bestest. Let me scooch over here so that I can really show you. Like, you guys are amazing. You're awesome. I love you. We're having a great time. And I do have some more fun content coming for you soon, so yay. And everybody, thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Be safe. Be kind, and also please wash your hands and put on a freaking mask because this shit is getting worse. America's doing a bad job at this. All right, guys, thank you again. I love you, and until next time, deuces! Oh, it's weird to end on such a joyous note when everything was so depressing, but it was a really good uplifting story. It actually does uplift me. I feel stronger every day for it. I do. Bo Bear, do you want to give me a hug? Mama needs a hug.